So Ryan Clark gets emotional about the LSU captain, Greg Brooks. All right, so Greg Brooks discusses his emergency brain tumor surgery that he had in September 2023. All right, it was very difficult for him to deal with this as he was alleged misdiagnosed for a medical injury, which was, they said, with vertigo, but he ended up having a brain tumor.
Just playing football.
I mean, sometimes I miss it like that. I look at the screen and be like, that's supposed to be me, but I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah. No, you keep that.
So I hate to show it, but August 14, 2023, Greg Brooks Jr.
First off, get us caught up on where you're at and you be ready to go for the opener, etc.
Oh, most definitely I'll be ready for the open. I'll be actually back till tomorrow. Been dealing with vertigo, so it's kind of hard dealing with that. But I wasn't really feeling myself last week. But now I'm back better and ready to back help the team.
Last but not least, obviously his father and Greg Sr. and Greg Jr. discuss, how LSU or the coaching staff allegedly have treated him or not talked to him at all once he went through everything.
People cannot understand me.
Specifically, Brian Kelly. My son almost lost his life, coach. Where were you? Forget about football. Pick up the phone and say you love the kid, man. Felt like a dream.
Yeah, like a nightmare that I couldn't wake up from.
Or the coaches tell you about what he was going through?
Nothing. The one call that I received was, I need you to get here. Your son is having emergency surgery tomorrow morning.
Little Greg, for you.
I just want to be known.
Coaching staff hasn't reached out to him, while he went through everything. But Cam, literally talk about his experience, but balancing the player versus the person in these situations.
Yeah, man, bro. First off, Ryan Clark, bro, I think we all feel what you felt in that moment, and I think it shows strength, not weakness, for you to express yourself by way of tears, and you can kind of see him waiting because he didn't want to do it in front of him, but it's such a emotional undertaking, right? As for Greg Brooks and his family, it's sad, man. Cause as football players, you know what comes with it. Sad but true. You know what comes with playing this game. When you see motivational speakers like Inky Johnson is another example of a guy who was extremely talented playing this game, and it leads to
that.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, golly, which what I think about as a football player, I'm able to walk and I'm able to just operate normally as a pedestrian now. And I just thank God, bro. I thank God because that could have been me.
Yeah.
But as he's living through that, when I'm reminded of a guy like Ryan Shazier, who is extremely talented, and going in to what he has done thousands of times to go in for a tackle.
Yeah.
And that was his last tackle. That was his last opportunity able to walk.
And run,
and you see now Greg Brooks, where we know certain parts of a story.
Yeah.
Right? It's always two sides of a story. So I speak about, the coach and the program. I only know I can speak, number one, as an athlete, right?
Yeah.
And I also can speak as a father with having children who are actively playing football.
Yeah.
And I only can imagine what that mental emotion feels like. And what do you say? I don't want my son to play football. That's on one side, but we just had the NFL draft where, like, just like this, people are becoming millionaires, right? So
Lives are changing.
you take that risk.
Yeah.
I heard this. I heard this before, but before I say the quote, it just shows you the importance of being properly diagnosed and what is it like to be misdiagnosed.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. Yeah.
A couple of years ago, Big Trent, right, stood firm on I do not want to play for, at the time, the Washington Redskins, which is now the Washington Commanders, because he felt that he was misdiagnosed and taking a situation what I believe was a tumor, and they said he can play, right? Don't quote me with this with the story, but more or less just the subject line here is doctors, just like us all, have to be held accountable.
Yeah.
Right? To my quote, it says, a misdiagnosis to a car leads to that car ending up in a junkyard. A misdiagnosis of a doctor leads to a human in the graveyard. So this is not a laughing matter. This is not something that we don't take extremely serious, and somebody has to be held accountable to that, to understand. And misdiagnosis happen every single day.
Yeah, for sure.
All right? That's just
We're not perfect.
that's just the fact, because even doctors are human beings.
Correct.
But even with being human, with Greg Brooks Sr., as a coach, as a program, as something you just want to be able to hold on to and say, they reached out.
They tried.
They were there.
Yeah.
The smallest initiative would have gone a long way. This man gave you guys
His life.
And nothing is like, what would a bonehead say about it? Well, we gave you a scholarship. Like, no, bro, that's not equal. That's not equal.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes all people want is for you to seem like you care. And that's what I got from that video. Amongst other things, I'm at a loss of words. I don't even know how a father is supposed to feel in that situation.
Yeah. So as a player, when you are misdiagnosed, I want to ask, your mentor of, like, do you feel safe to go out and play? Do you feel safe even when you get hurt? It's like, do I know they have the best intentions for me?
I think that's a great question. I think there's definitely a breach of trust.
Yeah.
Because everybody is entitled to a second opinion.
Yeah.
And I would advise or, would tell anybody to get a second opinion, no matter what you may think it is. There's been many times where people may say, man, you just got a knee strain. All the while, bro, you got a torn ACL, a torn MCL, a torn PCL, like these things. Or like I had an issue with my foot, and they kept saying, man, it's an ankle sprain or it's a foot sprain. That's what they kept calling it, foot sprain. So I'm like, man, I done had, if any injury that I've had the most in my career was ankle sprains or foot sprains. And I'm saying to myself, man, this don't feel like no regular foot sprain. So when I went and got a second opinion with the help of the Panthers, right? When you put a more microscopic kind of lens to it, it's not just any average foot sprain. It was lens frame, right? And I'm saying to myself, it's like, okay, well, what's the prognosis? Like, how do we get better from it? And that simple sprain cost me a whole year.
Yeah, dude.
Which in essence cost me my whole career. Because in business standings, that was my contract year, where I probably could have renegotiated after that year, but
you playing hurt.
I was hurt. And I was hurt the whole time, which happened on a freak accident. It was a contactless injury in a preseason game.
Yep.
So I'm like, yo, I can't catch a break. And then followed by shoulder surgery. I'm like, man, is that a rotator cuff? It's like, oh man, it's the labrum. It was so many different things. And I'm saying to myself, it's like, dog, I gotta go get a second opinion. But we identified what the issue was. But in any case, being told something and finding out that it's not, it obviously affects trust.
Yeah.
All encompassing.
Yeah.
Not just from the doctors, it's also from the franchise and the organization.
And one last thing I want to ask you too, right? Because you just want to play.
Yep.
You know, you don't want your body to keep you from performing like the Cam or the athlete that you are. And you still played during that. A few games you was trying.
I played 2 games.
And it was evident that
hit something wrong.
It's something wrong, right? And I remember seeing you like that and playing. I'm like, something not right, right? And you just had that in your heart. You like, I'm still going. I gotta do it.
There was this example. If people know that 2018 year, and we had a game versus, I believe they were the Rams. I don't know if they was Los Angeles Rams yet or not. And then that next game, we had a Thursday night game.
It was the Saints, I think.
Versus the Buccaneers.
The Bucks, okay. It was Thursday night.
And
Charlotte.
I'm not trying to condemn anything, but the Bucks in our schedule was always a win, right? No disrespect, right? We just felt that, the Bucks was known to beat somebody at the time. This was pre-Tom Brady. This was pre-Super Bowl champ. This was the Bucks with, right? Yeah. We knew that it was going to be competitive early, but in the end, we was going to be able to pull away.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, we had an opportunity to win that game, and the ball was in the goal line. And my dad knew it, and he didn't share this until after, I was told to shut it down until I got healthy. He said, Cam, I knew something was wrong with you. I'm like, man, what you mean? He's like, son, I've been knowing you as long as you've been knowing yourself. And even with you playing football, I've never seen the game on the line and you handed the ball off. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, that game versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I handed the ball off to C-Mac. He was like, nah, something wrong with my son, right? So people who are extremely vested in the emotions of who you are and really the team, they know. Yeah. Whether you may be like, no, I'm good. It's like, nah, he ain't right. Because in the same situation years before where we played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the red zone, I believe that game was around Christmas, where even though I fumbled, the ball was in my hand and we scored a touchdown, right? So that alone gives inclination that something's wrong. We got to identify what's wrong. To be told something is the issue and it's not, it obviously affects trust moving forward for anybody.
Yeah, that's real.
Here we go, next clip.